The LAEDC Institute for Applied Economics works year-round, gathering and analyzing data and providing information and informative and influential research and analysis on the regional economy. In other words, they spend a lot of time listening, observing, and reading. And they do it all year round, and it's a very sensitive thing to do, but they're skilled at it. They've done it quite well in the past, which is why we're here this morning. I'm going to, once again, the QR code, allow me to introduce the individual who championed the team that put this report together, the Senior Director of the Institute for Applied Economics for LAEDC, Shannon Sedgwick.
Thank you, Conan. And thank you to all of you for joining us today as we share our economic outlook out to 2025. So the Institute for Applied Economics at the LAEDC, we're a very small team. We're dedicated to performing objective economic research and analysis and providing decision makers with critical information from which to make their decisions and do that in an informed manner. And so in this way, we support the LAEDC's mission of reinventing our economy to collaboratively advance growth and prosperity for all. So before I begin, I'd like to take a quick moment to recognize our senior economist, Dr. Justin L. Adams, and our economist, Dr. Dan Way. Can you guys stand up and wave hello? There. So we all work diligently to produce this forecast that we're presenting to you today. So without further ado, we'll jump into the 2024 LAEDC economic forecast, addressing lingering challenges and positioning for opportunity. So our economy has been on one wild ride the last few years, first with the economic dislocations related to the pandemic, where Los Angeles County saw a 5% contraction in its gross county product, how we measure economic growth, and severe job losses, with total employment falling by close to 9% in 2020. Los Angeles was on a path to economic recovery in 2021 and 2022, and by the end of 2022, our economy had recovered the number of jobs lost during the pandemic. Then we faced a new scourge, it's inflation, and the Federal Reserve rapidly hiked interest rates to slow the economy and rein that in. And by the end of 2023, it did subside. So the Fed paused its aggressive rate hikes, and that eased a lot of the fears that we would tip into a recession. However, as COVID-19, that pandemic and inflation fade into the distance, the old and persistent challenges of Los Angeles and California are reemerging to take center stage again. So we find that the past is prologue. We may be facing some of the same problems as before, but we find ourselves in a weaker position thanks to all the disruption of the pandemic. Income inequality continues to widen in Los Angeles County. Business balance sheets aren't as strong, and employment is showing signs of softening. There are fewer employees in the county by the middle of 2023 than there were in the middle of 2022. The challenges that Los Angeles faces, they're numerous and they're interconnected, they're intertwined. So we can't address all of them in our forecast, but there are three primary challenges that stood out to us: our regional population decline, housing affordability, and the cost of doing business here. So projections show that the Los Angeles region is expected to lose population over the foreseeable future. So both the county and the city of Los Angeles, they began experiencing negative growth rates in 2019, but the decline was part of a general trend of slowing population growth that's been ongoing for years. And the COVID-19 pandemic, it accelerated these losses. And while the rate of population decline has eased somewhat during 2022 and 2023, those losses are not expected to reverse. So the California Department of Finance, they develop demographic projections for counties, and they project that by 2034, just 10 years from now, Los Angeles County will fall below 9.5 million residents, and that's down from a high of 10.2 million in 2028. So regional population decline has implications for future economic growth, and we first flagged this in our 2020 forecast. Another barrier to economic growth faced is the housing crisis, and unaffordability continues to put a strain on our residents. So data from the California Association of Realtors show that as of the third quarter of 2023, only 11% of households in Los Angeles County can afford to purchase a median-priced single-family home here. And this is down from 31% just 10 years prior. So this lack of affordability hits differently across different races and ethnicities, and affordability hits Black and Latino communities particularly hard. If we look at data for 2022, CAR statistics showed that while 17% of all households could afford a medium-priced home in LA County, only 9% of Black and 10% of Latino households could. And renters aren't immune from these effects either. The latest numbers from the Census Bureau indicate that the vast majority of renters in LA are rent burdened. In fact, over 55% are rent burdened, and that's paying more than 30% of their household income. And when you think about paying more than half of your income, of your household income for rent, well, 30% of our households are doing that currently. So this worsening in housing affordability has been caused primarily from the persistently increasing house prices in the region. So the median listing price has been generally moving upward over the past 5 years in the county, but it spiked in 2023, jumping by more than $200,000 from January to May. The Federal Reserve has exacerbated the situation through its efforts to rein in inflation. Mortgage interest rates rose as the Fed raised interest rates to cool the economy and bring that inflation down. And so nationally, a 30-year fixed mortgage rose from a monthly average of 2.7% in December of 2020 to 7.6% by October of 2023. Now let's jump to the cost of doing business. The LA region is one of the most expensive places to do business. And if we're looking at the Los Angeles, Long Beach, Anaheim MSA, and we're compare that to 380 other metropolitan areas through a business cost index, we see in 2023, LA had the 6th highest business costs in the country, and they're almost 20% higher than the national average. So the business cost index, it's a composite measure that weights regional labor, energy, real estate, and tax costs. And for the Los Angeles area, labor costs are 13% higher than the national average. Energy costs are 91% higher. Real estate costs are 51% higher, and taxes are 40% higher. So energy costs represent the component of the BCI with the most extreme divergence from the national average. And over the past 5 years, the average cost of electricity in LA has increased substantially relative to the rest of the US. At the beginning of 2019, electricity costs were 36% higher than the national average, but by the end of 2023, they were 70% higher. So overall, the high costs for labor, utilities, land, regulations, and taxes, they can lead to businesses leaving, closing, or facing trade-offs. So the U.S. economy demonstrated remarkable resilience in 2023 in the face of persistent headwinds, namely from the Federal Reserve. So the Fed raised the federal fund rates 4 times during the year on top of the 7 increases in 2022 to a target range of 5.25% to 5.50% to slow the economy and tamp down inflation. High interest rates have impacted the economy. The monthly change in, so that should say monthly change in total non-farm payroll employment. So the monthly change in seasonally adjusted non-farm payroll employees has declined since early 2022, and that's when the Fed began its rate hikes. So if present trends continue, that means far fewer jobs will be added monthly over the next 2 years. So while inflation has moderated, the cumulative impact of nearly 2 years of high inflation means we now live in an environment with higher prices. And so CPI data shows that compared to pre-pandemic levels, all goods and services are now more than 19% higher. And there's no reason to expect that these prices come down in the foreseeable future. Strong consumer spending has been propping up our economic performance of late, but the current pace of consumer spending is likely to diminish over the next few years. And that's because a drop in personal savings rate and an increase in credit card balances suggest that consumer spending is reaching its limits. So households no longer have those excess savings related to the infusion of federal pandemic assistance. So taken together, the signs point to a slowing national economy in 2024 and 2025. And can we say for certain that the Federal Reserve has successfully engineered a soft landing of the economy such that, we achieve slow growth without and avoid a recession? Well, we're not expecting a recession in the next 2 years at this moment, but we really can't rule it out either. So we're entering a period of slow economic growth, and in 2023, economic growth was estimated at 1.9%, and the GSP growth, gross state product, is anticipated to slow to about 1.7% in 2024 and 1.6% in 2025. Real GCP in LA County increased by 2.1% in 2021, at the same growth rate observed in 2022. And similar to the US and the California forecasts, the county is going to experience more restrained economic growth over the next 2 years, with a projected real GCP growth rate of 1.4% in 2024 and 1.5% in 2025. So we think it's likely the Federal Reserve will keep interest rates elevated for some time, which will act as a continued drag on the economy and pulling inflation down closer to the Fed's 2% target over the next 2 years. And as the economy continues to cool, we expect non-farm job growth to be very modest and the unemployment rate to increase across the US, California, and Los Angeles County. So in the coming years, the rate of job creation in California is expected to slow, with a projected annual growth rate of 1.2% in 2024 and 0.4% in 2025. And if we look at the county, we expect it to follow the same trend, with projected annual growth rates of 1% in 2024 and 0.5% in 2025. So California is forecasted to add almost 335,000 net new jobs by 2025, and the county is expected to account for 20% of that growth, adding just under 67,000 net new jobs. Net new jobs means that this doesn't take into account the job churn that does occur beneath the surface, so it doesn't mean that that's the only employment opportunities that there are. So we expect, looking at how job growth distributes across the sectors of our economy, we expect that the sectors that are driving growth include education and health services, leisure and hospitality, which are tourism-related industries here, and professional and business services. So at the state level, and it impacts us here locally too, the state budget is struggling with substantial deficits, shifting from a historic surplus of $100 billion to a substantial deficit within 1 year. So this big swing was primarily attributed to an economic slowdown and the volatility and uncertainty of tax revenues. And it emphasizes the need for budget balancing strategies and proposed solutions. So California has one of the country's most progressive income tax structure system. In 2021, close to 50% of personal income taxes originated from the top 1% of income earners. So this is a concentrated tax liability within a very small demographic. The 2023 Budget Act forecast anticipated a 30% decline in capital gains realizations from the record highs that we experienced in 2021. But cash data indicates a drop of 57%, and that's leading to projections of those realizations coming in about $200 billion lower than anticipated through 2025. So here in Los Angeles County, the dual Hollywood strikes we faced last year impacted our local economy. Our motion picture and sound recording industries, they account for nearly 3% of the 4.6 million non-farm payroll workers here in the county. But this industry is more than just payroll workers. There are a significant number of gig workers and businesses of all size in its industry supply chain who were affected. Shoot days dropped to levels that we hadn't seen since the pandemic when the industry shut down then. And while last year's strikes by WGA and SAG-AFTRA ended on September 27th and November 9th, respectively, it was too late in the year for projects put on hold to pick back up in any meaningful way. And moreover, post-production, which is downstream from film and television production, will continue to feel the negative effects of last year's work stoppage into 2024, even as production resumes, since they're at the end of the value chain. And here in Los Angeles, again, the office market, the office sector is still struggling with heightened vacancy rates resulting from the shift away from central business districts towards remote and hybrid work arrangements. And while some corporations have mandated a return to office, many are really embracing the long-term hybrid schedules as the new norm. In Q4 of 2023, the office space vacancy rate in LA County reached a historic peak of 21.9%, and that's about 1.5 times the pre-pandemic vacancy level. So just to recap, our key findings include that we're entering a period of slow economic growth over the next 2 years. 3 primary challenges we're flagging as having being significant threats to our future economic growth are the usual suspects of regional population decline, housing affordability, and the cost of doing business. So beyond 2024-25, California will likely face continued budget challenges, and LA County is continues to be vulnerable to the office market crisis and future labor negotiations, especially in our film and television industries. So that concludes our forecast presentation. Thank you again for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us today. If you're interested in taking a closer look at our full forecast, you can find it at our website this afternoon. Thank you.